sweat you pour into your teammates.
Aya Wilson could only type 3 words following the phone call that may end her career. She didn't even write a paragraph or an explanation when she sent her agent 3 devastating lines at 9:47 a.m. about what should have been a common occurrence. The morning of Friday. Here's what, though, makes this story utterly absurd. The Olympic gold medalist 2 times. The WNBA's face for nearly 10 years, the player who thought her place on Team USA was unbeatable, never expected it. And the person in the center of it all, Clark, Caitlin. Now, before you think that this is just another dramatic tale with a lot of sensationalism, I'll stop you. Due to what happened behind closed doors at the USA basketball headquarters, was more than simply switching out one player for another. This was a deliberate choice that sent shockwaves through the whole world of women's basketball. Examining the real reasons for Aya Wilson's dismissal, the roster grows darker than everyone is talking about. USA basketball doesn't make snap judgments like this. Olympic winners aren't just sliced off because they want to. What actually happened, then? Wilson's behavior was so harmful and so toxic that the business was ready to handle the inevitable consequences of dismissing one of their biggest stars. 2 years ago is when the answer started. Clark was a powerful professional long ago. It starts with a pattern of conduct displayed by USA basketball management well before the World Cup team was even being considered. We're secretly taping every comment, every interview, every well-planned insult passed off as sage advice. Nobody is pointing out that basketball skill had nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with Wilson's playing style. Her genius was always undeniable. It was something far more dangerous. It posed a hazard to the fundamental foundation of what Team USA is working to build for the future of women's basketball. And after you understand what that, Wilson's termination becomes inevitable instead of merely acceptable. The duration of the phone call was exactly 4 minutes and 18 seconds. But the damage, for 730 days, that has been evolving. Let's return to the original location of this. Began in March of 2023. Although Caitlin Clark is still an Iowa student, she is a cultural phenomenon rather than just a basketball player. Young women donning number 22 jerseys in every state, sold-out arenas, and record-breaking viewership. America, Ania Wilson. She is watching all of this as the WNBA's current MVP. Things start to become intriguing at this point. Most of the more experienced players were recognizing Clark's impact. They were aware of her values. A rise in sponsorship, new fans, and general knowledge of women's basketball. Even legendary figures like Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird were praising Clark's achievements to the sport in public. Wilson's response, though, was different. Quietly, it started. A comment here, a harsh interview there. Nothing on its own that would make headlines. But when you put them in chronological order, the pattern becomes evident. All I can hope is that people remember that. We've been here doing this work for years, Wilson said in response to a question regarding Clark's growing popularity. Doesn't it seem harmless enough? However, she repeated it 12 times on 12 separate platforms. That same indication that Clark's victory was beginning to wane. With the same edge every time. What veterans had accomplished. The social media action was then followed. Officials from USA Basketball have whole folders of Wilson's digital footprint from this time period. Screenshots of critical tweets about Clark that were liked. Posts that her fans immediately saw as shadow were mysterious. The kind of activity that, when viewed as a whole, produces a very specific image even though it is meaningless on its own. But this is what truly caused things to cross the line. During Team USA training sessions and WNBA competitions, behind closed doors, Wilson was apparently having conversations that made other players uncomfortable. Sources with knowledge of the situation and the other people in the room recall a seasoned player who was afraid of the shifting overview of women's basketball. There was a particular incident at a Team USA alumni function in November of last year. Has been seen as the moment when officials started to take Wilson's roster spot seriously. What happened there? What was said that went beyond mistrust among veterans to something that USA basketball couldn't ignore? Few people are aware of the direct encounter and explosive nature of the information. Took place in Las Vegas in November of 2023. A private dinner at a resort off the Strip for former members of Team USA. 27 historical and contemporary national teammates in one space. Without any cameras or reporters, the basketball elite is dining together and discussing the future of the initiative. In a casual conversation about the upcoming Olympics and the expansion, Caitlin Clark's name was brought up. Of basketball for women. Aya Wilson then took the initiative. 3 distinct people say, who were present, and these accounts are very identical. Wilson stood up and provided what witnesses referred to as a passionate statement on paying tribute to the athletes who pioneered the sport. It makes sense, right? Veteran in favor of honoring pioneers. But the conversation quickly evolved into something very different. Wilson reportedly spent 8 minutes discussing why social media popularity differs from basketball. Grandeur. Why the highlight clips were taken from the logo instead of actual basketball. Why the NBA needed to protect its integrity from turning into an entertainment platform on Instagram. She didn't need to mention Clark by name. Everyone in the room knew exactly who she was talking about. The saddest part is that Breanna Stewart, in fact, another Team USA member, cut Wilson off in the middle of his statement. This level of intensity here, Stewart allegedly said. There was silence in the room. Olympic winners on both sides. This is the exact problem with the way we are handling this situation. Of an imperceptible line. A few agreed with Wilson by nodding. Others were obviously uncomfortable with the route the talk had gone. One person in that room, though, wasn't just uncomfortable. This was seen by them as a grave warning that should not be ignored. Carol Callan is the director of the USA Basketball Women's National Team. Callan was employed by USA Basketball. For almost 2 decades, she has observed personality clashes, managed egos, and dealt with drama that would make producers of reality TV jealous. But what she witnessed that night had a different meaning. Anything dangerous. Given that USA Basketball has already begun discussions on a new initiative. A complete culture shift in how they approach team building, a strategy focused on embracing the younger generation rather than guarding it. The worst conceivable gesture had just been made by Aya Wilson. After 48 hours, Vegas. After dinner, Callan called an urgent meeting of the USA Basketball Selection Committee. The topic: 2026 World Cup roster development and cultural fit. But the real purpose was clear. They had to decide whether or not to ride with the veteran who's won us gold medals but might taint the culture we're trying to create, or should we declare that changes everything. There was not even a close vote. 6 of the 7 committee members voted in unison, while 1 member voted in opposition. Within 72 hours, they changed their position after looking at all that USA Basketball's analytics showed. Team has created a thorough psychological profile of team dynamics. However, this isn't something that USA Basketball advertising in public, but they have been using cutting-edge team chemistry measurements since 2019. It's not just about points, assists as well as rebounds. They're keeping an eye on player interactions, assessing social media sentiment, utilizing AI to monitor body language during team activities and assess communication patterns. Software. Does that sound powerful? Yes, it is. But here's why it matters. The information about Aya Wilson was alarming. Clark's team cohesion score has dropped by 43% when she joined the professional discourse. Her favorable rate of interaction with younger players, it was in the lowest 15th percentile among seasoned leaders. What is the most damning? Her name was shown in a negative light. Context reports more than any other Team USA applicant during the last 18 months. But just half of the data came from the analytics. The story. The other half came from confidential player interviews conducted by USA Basketball staff. In addition, the younger players' off-the-record remarks against Wilson in supposedly secure settings were devastating. According to reports, a rising star acknowledged that she makes you feel like you don't belong. For example, you must apologize for being ecstatic about the sport's growing popularity. USA Basketball was supposedly notified by another 2024 drafted athlete. Officials, I no longer want to play on the same squad as Aya, even though I used to look up to her. The energy is toxic. These weren't just occasional complaints. This type of gatekeeping put the future itself at jeopardy. When USA Basketball was trying to expand, that was the last straw. Wilson's termination was not only likely due to the event, but essential. January 2025. It's already been said that Caitlin Clark's first WNBA season was historic. She fills all cities' venues, apparel sales are soaring, and the league is getting all the attention it deserves. Television slots for the first time in a number of years. USA Basketball announces the first roster choices for the 2026 World Cup. As was to be expected, Wilson and Clark are both on the list. Ania Wilson made a decision that would end her tenure with Team USA. She made an appearance on a popular basketball podcast, not a small, niche show, with over 2 million downloads. Wilson responded in a premeditated manner when questioned about playing alongside Caitlin Clark on the national team. Deliberate and completely disastrous. I think we should be very careful while choosing the face of. Because representing your country isn't about your Instagram followers, Wilson said about USA Basketball in a composed but direct manner. It's crucial to respect the game. Understanding the actual significance of this uniform is crucial. The host retreated a bit. But Caitlin's genius is undeniable, isn't it? Wilson's response. There are lots of gifted athletes. The question has never been that. That 15-second video became viral in less than 2 hours. As social media exploded, sports experts scrutinized every word and, most importantly, USA Basketball officials watched it in complete disbelief since Wilson had merely questioned Caitlin Clark's legitimacy to don the USA uniform in public, not because of her skill. Based not on performance but on an arbitrary standard of respect that only veterans follow. Seemed to define, and Carol Callan made the choice that would change everything. That takes us back to that Friday morning, the 3 words Wilson wrote to her agent, and the decision that is now uncertain. Fundamental to women's basketball. What hasn't been revealed yet, though, is what actually happened in that. Aya Wilson and USA Basketball had their final conversation. 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time was the scheduled time for the call. After working out in the morning, Wilson anticipated a typical Team USA check-in at her Las Vegas residence. The CEO of USA Basketball, Jim Tooley, Carol Callan, and another person whose presence. Wilson should have been told immediately that this was not a normal conversation. A U.S. lawyer. Basketball's Human Resources Department. We would like to congratulate you, Aya, on your outstanding contribution to the program that Callan initiated. Wilson allegedly interrupted him. Expert. Practiced. Every athlete knows that this type of opening portends bad news. Instantly. What's going on? They then told her that she will not be participating in the 2026 World Cup. Not penalized. Not downgraded. Totally disregarded. The final decision was made by a unanimous vote of the committee, and the appeals process would not exist. Sources who were immediately notified of the call. Afterward, Wilson's reaction was one of total confusion. She kept asking, why? Repeatedly, as if the answer might be accurate. When Callan started talking about the nasty remarks trend and how it affected team culture. After the overly dramatic podcast interview, Wilson's confusion transformed into something completely different. Wilson reportedly yelled, "This is about Caitlin Clark. You're cutting an Olympic gold medalist and MVP because of a rookie with no prior international experience." And at this moment, the conversation took a turn that fully explains USA Basketball's decision. Jim Tooley, who rarely speaks during these calls. This isn't about Caitlin Clark, Aya. It's about you and your inability to tell your personal thoughts on what's best for USA Basketball. The line was reportedly silent for a whole 10 seconds. Tooley continued, and what he said next has been referred to as USA Basketball's most brutally honest comment ever said to a player. We've won gold medals and experienced incredible experiences with you, but women's basketball is at this point, we are at a crossroads. Either we embrace the growth, the new adherence, and the cultural shift, or we protect our egos and watch. We're choosing the future. You've chosen to protect your ego. Wilson tried to respond, but the urge died. She started talking about her resume, legacy, and accomplishments, when Callan interrupted her with something that ended the conversation completely. 4 different players, candidates for the present roster, asking not to be placed in team situations with you. Faria. That has never happened in the history of our program. 4 players were teammates who were supposed to back Wilson and believe in his ability to lead. A seasoned champion. Rather, they were deliberately trying to avoid her. The call ended shortly after, with a painful 90 seconds of stillness. After a few procedural snags regarding the announcement timetable, the conversation ended, and Aya Wilson took